And welcome to the Fantasy Flex Props Podcast. We're going to talk all about player props today. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined by my guy, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on, man? It's the end of the week. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Last week I was saying I felt even better than I did after week one when I went 5-0. And I ended up going 1-4. So I apologize for that. But the beauty of Prize Picks is, going 5-0, you can get like 10-1 payout. So I can, have a bad week. I think 5 weeks in a row now and still be up. So hopefully I can be a little bit better this week. But yeah, apologies for last week.
Yeah, that's a 10-1 payout. So I actually just put some of those in right before we hopped on the show. So we'll talk about those props right now. And let's start with our first quarterback prop. We do a quarterback prop each, 2 running back props, and 2 receiving props. So who you got for QB in week number 3?
I'm going over Justin Fields. It's 215.5 passing yards right now. This is his debut. It's a tougher matchup against the Browns, but the Bears are 7-point underdogs. This should be a pass-heavy game script, and I've been pretty bullish on Justin Fields all offseason. So I love that we get the line pretty low, and his rushing yard line is 44.5, which seems high to me. I don't think he's going to be that much of a scrambling quarterback. I think he's going to lean on his arm a bit more than the market's indicating right now. So I'm actually projecting him closer to 240 yards. I mean, he has Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney at his disposal. So I think he's going to, have a sneaky good passing game this week. So I'm going over 215.5, and I'd probably take it all the way up to, 225.5, 230 right now.
Yeah, I have Justin Fields throwing for 250 and running for 45. Oh. So I'm over both.
Oh, so you do have him rushing for a ton of yards because
I have him at 8 carries, eight carries for 45. I don't feel like that's excessive. I mean, what do you have? Like he had like 10 carries and 10 pass attempts in his debut or something crazy like that.
Yeah, so, no, I think
some of them are near downs, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that the rushing line is way off. I think just we don't know. There's a wider range of outcomes. Whereas I think his passing floor is pretty high right now. So that's why I'm going with the over on that. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he rushes for over 50 yards. He's certainly talented enough. He flashed that ability in preseason, but I don't think he's like a Jalen Hurts type of scrambling quarterback. That's why I'm, saying just throw that in as a lighter play, but I'm more confident in my passing yard projection for him right now.
Yeah, you're on the under for Fields rushing. I'm just saying I'm over everything. Like I'm way over the passing yard. So I totally agree with your play. This 215, that's like a Davis Mills-esque line. Like what's going on? And remember, Mac Jones, his line was like 240 or something in week or 250. So like, I don't know.
But we knew that was too high.
Yeah, but it's like this to me is an over. I did bet the Bears plus 7.5. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this Cleveland defense hasn't really come together quite yet in terms of like being what we thought it would be, given all the additions. I mean, you gave up 337 to Mahomes. That'll happen. But Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills, still combined for 227. I think and Tyrod Taylor was 10 of 11 for 125.
Yeah.
So, and he only had a rush once. So maybe that's, that could play into it. But the Browns couldn't stop Tyrod Taylor and they couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes. So this sets up well for Justin Fields to go over his passing prop. I like it. My quarterback prop is going to be Kyler Murray over 280.5 passing yards. Kyler Murray's passing yardage has been one of those things that's just like gone up in my model. I haven't passed him for over 300 yards this week. So I look at Kyler Murray in 2 different game scripts this year. In his first game script, it was a blowout win, 289 yards still. So he still would have gone over. In a close game, he still throws for 400. Jacksonville allowed 291 to Tyrod Taylor in a blowout. And a little closer game, they still allowed 328 to Teddy Bridgewater. So Jacksonville's given up way over 280 twice, at least 10 yards over. And Kyler's gone at least 9 yards over this number in both games. So there's no scenario yet in which this has gone under. I know people are thinking, okay, it's going to be an easy win for Arizona. Not so sure about that. This is a classic trap game for Arizona. They got some tough games on deck. They're going on their road here. They're like a touchdown favorite. So I think you'll still see Kyler throw his normal amount of passes. Rondale Moore's getting better and better. I know Hopkins missing some practice, but that's normal for him. So I think he'll be fine. So yeah, Kyler over 280.5.
Yeah, I'm right in line with you, but I do take all your points, and I was a bit concerned about a potential blowout, but it does seem like, Jaguars plus 7.5 might be the play.
Oh no!
I know you and I can't bet on Urban Meyer yet. We can't bet.
Yeah,
we
don't
can't
do
bet
it.
on Urban Meyer.
Don't do
I
it.
understand
I'm
that.
telling you. No, let him cover first. That's all I'm saying. Let them cover a spread first.
Right.
And then
I'm saying for people that want to bet on that game, it seems like a decent
I'm
play.
still saying don't. I'm not saying bet on the Cardinals. I'm still saying don't. Don't.
And I agree that Rondale Moore, not that Kyler Murray hasn't really unlocked his ceiling yet, but he had room to grow as a passer, and I think Rondale Moore is helping unlock that. So yeah, I think the market's probably underreacting to Kyler's first 2 games, and I could definitely see why somebody wanted to go over 280 against the Jaguars. Come on, this is an easy matchup. So
and remember Kyler for his career, and I've pointed this out because for his career he came into the year averaging about 7 yards per attempt. So it's not that he has to throw more. He's just getting more efficient. This year, he's averaging 10.1 yards an attempt. Do we expect him to do that all year? Of course not. But can he average like 7.5, 7, approach 8 with this amount of weaponry against the bad D? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, who is your first running back prop for week number 3?
Let's go with Najee Harris to go under 69.5 rushing yards.
Where have I heard that one before? Oh,
yeah,
on the other podcast.
It snaked you. Yeah, well, I liked it so much I stole it.
You can have it. You can have it. It's a great play though. It's a great
Appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, he has to earn most of his yards. I said this after week 1, where 84% of his rushing yards have been after contact this year. Which is good. It means he's earning his yards. He's a good running back, but his offensive line is doing him no favors. So I think we'll just see them dump off to him to be, sort of an extension of the run game. I still like him in fantasy as a result, but I'm afraid we just can't really be projecting him for this many rushing yards yet. So I'm projecting him closer to 60 here, and I'd probably take this down to about 65.5 to 66.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take it down under 60, to at least to 60. I have him under 60 yards projected this week, and that's the mean. So the median. You got to take another, few yards off that. So, I think he'll do work in the passing game. I think I have him projected for about 4 catches, but I bet the under in this Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game. Cincinnati's allowing just 4.5 yards per play on defense. So this is not an easy matchup all the way around. And Ben Roethlisberger's banged up now. So maybe that, maybe they run more, but they haven't really been able to run. So that's the issue. It's going to be tough, I think. Tough sledding for Harris. So I like that one. I already talked about that on the other pod, so I'll just go right into mine. Austin Ekeler, over 53.5 rushing yards. He's been over this prop in both games, albeit barely. He's 57 and 54 in his 2 games this year. He's averaging 12 carries a game, so he'd have to average 4.5 yards per carry to go over this number against Kansas City. Well, for his career, he averages 4.7 yards per carry. Kansas City is giving up 130 rushing yards per game and 5.7 yards per carry to running backs this season. And this is what they do. They invite you to run the football. They want you to run because they know that they have Patrick Mahomes on the other side and he can hit a 75-yard touchdown in one play. So they don't feel like they need to kind of stop the run and they really just don't want to give you anything, huge, big plays over the top, things like that. And they feel like most weeks they won't beat themselves. Funny that I say that after they beat themselves last week, but still.
Although I think the refs helped with that.
But. Right, but I mean, no, you don't see Patrick Mahomes make a worse throw or Edwards-Helaire fumble like that, in succession very often. So I thought you were
talking about the Chargers. My bad.
Oh, no. The Chargers. I'm talking about the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs like to invite the run because the Chiefs aren't going to beat themselves on offense. Like they're going to, if anything, they're going to beat you on offense. So they don't.
Exactly.
You can run for 5 yards of carry all day against them. And that's what they've done in the Mahomes era. Every year, they're bottom of the league in DVOA against the run. The efficiency is very good for opponents against the run. So again, Ekeler doesn't have to do anything crazy. He just has to average his normal carries below his career average, way below the KC average on defense. And he still barely gets over this one. So I think you could have a big game on the ground for Ekeler. So Ekeler over 53.5 rushing yards at Prize Picks.
Yeah, love it. I mean, he was my cheat code. I think he was yours too. On our week 3 DFS preview show.
Yep.
And yeah, the Chiefs defense ranks 32nd in DVOA against the run. Not surprising because, like you said, that's kind of part of their plan and it works. So yeah, love Ekeler here. Both, his rushing and receiving props look enticing on the over. So I'm in line with you here.
All right, where are you going for your second running back prop?
I'm going with Leonard Fournette to go under 21.5 receiving yards. And this is a bit of a projection because he's cleared this number in each of the first 2 games. Week 1, he had 5 catches for 27 yards. Last week, he had 4 catches for 24. But we really haven't seen Gio Bernard be involved too much yet. And maybe that's due to that ankle injury he had going into the season. But I think either way, they're going to start to get Gio a little bit more involved, and Leo's going to concede some of that work to him. And plus, his Leo's catch rate's 82% right now, 24% target rate. So I expect those to regress slightly. So this is kind of getting ahead of the future trend, I think, where he's not going to be clearing 20 yards every game. I'm projecting this actually closer to 17 yards, which, a 5-6 point gap in receiving yards for running back is a pretty big deal. So I do think there's quite a bit of value here, and I would probably take it down to about 19.5.
Yeah, my mean projection for Fournette is actually 18. So I'm well under this number. I'm even lower than you on his receiving. You look at week 1, he ran 58% of the routes per dropback, but that was with Ronald Jones running only 4% and getting benched in the process. In week 2, Fournette, they knocked 15% off that down to 43, and Jones went up to 33. So Bernard actually also went down, but I think they don't there was a quote, and this is why, again, most of my research during the week stems not from reading a lot of other fantasy content. It's a lot of just team beat reports, things like that. And there's a quote from Bruce Arians that said, "We don't like to throw to our backs. We only do it if we really have to. We like to go downfield." And that matches with exactly what we know about the offense. So I know the Rams are going to play some too high shell. But I think that's going to invite the run more than, the backs, because you still have to protect, maybe have to keep them in the block. You're not going to, at this point, Gronk, you have to keep a backing over Gronk. You can't have Gronk pass blocking because he's right. A Hall of Fame Gronk again now at this point. So, I like it. I'm way under on this projection. All right. For my second running back prop, I'm going to a guy that I was bearish for on the full season in this number, and he's been under it twice already, so I'm going to go back to the well. DeAndre Swift under 40.5 rushing yards, 39 and 37 in his first 2 games, averaging just 9.5 carries per game. So, and this is what I feared earlier, before the season, was that they weren't really going to up his carries, and especially not early in the year. Now they're on a short week, so I see no reason for them to give him a ton of work outside, outlying what he's already kind of received this year. But, Baltimore, they've given up some points in both games, so it may seem like their defense has fallen off a little. Not against the run. Baltimore's allowing just 44.5 rushing yards per game to running backs, just 2.8 yards per carry to opposing backfields through 2 weeks, just 32 carries for 89 yards combined by opposing running backs in the 2 games for Baltimore. So still playing good defense on the ground, forcing opponents to go to the air. I think DeAndre Swift falls short of this again. Probably not way short, but I think it's another week where he ends up in the 30s.
Yeah, you've been making a killing fading DeAndre Swift early in the season with his rushing stats, but yeah, we don't want to touch his receiving stats. Obviously, he's going to tear it up there, but Jamal Williams has looked good. The Lions are 8.5, 7.5 point underdogs.
About
right
8-point underdogs as we record this on
against the Ravens, who will probably dominate time of possession. So this is another spot to fade Swift's rushing ability, but I think he's still a good play in fantasy because he does have that high upside when it comes to receiving stats. So love the early season fade right now on Swift's rushing stats.
He has high ups too. Did you see him jump straight over a Packer last week? On Monday night.
Talking about Swift?
Yeah, he just
he's legit.
he cleared somebody like straight up, like right over his head. Like, no, I don't even think a foot knocked on the helmet or anything. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, you're not fading him because you think he's a bad football player. It's just all the variables right now are going against him.
No.
With
exactly.
his rushing stats anyway.
And you should be proud of me because I'll give you a little tease to the next two. This is my only under of the podcast. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna say you bumped up Nick Chubb's yard per carry to 5.5.
Hey, I'm getting there.
But I'll
take
it.
There. One thing at a time. Where you going with your first wide receiver or tight end prop for week number 3?
So I think I might have stolen this one from you. This one just seems like a no-brainer right now, and it's Cooper Kupp over 77.5 receiving yards. I'm actually surprised to see it this low, and I'm projecting quite a bit of regression going forward just because he can't maintain this 34% target rate when he's running a route. Like, that's probably unsustainable. Who knows? But he has 100% routes run rate through each of the first 2 games. He's in a clear mind meld with Matthew Stafford. I mean, the connection between the two is unreal. So I expect them to still, connect for 7 to 8 receptions here. And I'm projecting this up closer to 88.5, like approaching 90. I mean, he's your wide receiver too, right? He's my wide receiver 3 in fantasy.
Yeah, he's down to 3 now. I think Adam's.
Oh, he's down
in my little up, post podcast update.
Oh, okay, but it would not.
He climbed up, and Green Bay. I think they climbed up a little bit.
But if he keeps this up, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, he's in that range when it comes to just raw projection. So I think right now we take anything we see in the 70s with this guy. So I'm going over here, and I would take it up to probably 83.5 would be the cutoff for me. But love this over.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly where I am with his median, right around 83, 84. So I like it a lot. He's my number 3 wide out in fantasy, just like you. I don't think he'll fall any lower than that. If anything, he might bump back up to number 2. But great play. I have him for upwards of more than 6 and almost 7 catches in this game. So and remember, Tampa Bay, good defense, but they'll give up catches. Like we saw that against Dallas.
Yeah.
We saw it, against Atlanta. Like they're going to play cover 3. They're going to play a single high safety. You're going to be able to get some catches on them with your receivers. So I'm over this one as well. For my first receiver prop, I'm going Justin Jefferson over 73.5 receiving yards. This one is one where he went over it in half of his games last year, even though he wasn't playing full snaps until like week 3 or 4. And then he came just short in the 2 games this year, 66 and 71. But remember who they're playing this week, Seattle. Justin Jefferson lines up in the spot where he's going to face Trey Flowers the most. And Trey Flowers has really struggled to the point where I don't know, they might bench him, but either way, Flowers has given up 9 targets, 7 catches, 130 yards, a touchdown, a 156 passer rating. They're going to target this matchup, and the total is 55 in this game, 55.5. It's a 2-point spread, and that it opened, I think, around a pick 'em or Seattle -1. So could be another close game, high scoring game, and Jefferson's going to have the best matchup out of the trio of Minnesota receivers. So to me, this is where Justin Jefferson gets back to, putting up one of those stat lines that we kind of came to know him for last year, because he's kind of been quiet this year. We've been talking about KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen scores touchdowns every game.
Yeah.
But remember, Justin Jefferson last season averaged 87.5 yards per game. This year he's at 68. So in a great matchup, does he clear 73.5? I think absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you here. And our boy KJ Osborne has looked great the first 2 weeks, but I think he's going to take a step back, in terms of target share. So I think that's going to start going Justin Jefferson's way. And like I said before we went on, last year, Justin Jefferson, his prop was 18.5 yards. And we know what happened. Usually he gets off to a slow start in week 3, historically, on a 1-year sample size is when Justin Jefferson breaks out. So I see a trend here.
Imagine if you could bet, like, if you could lock in like a prop for the next year, like if you could lock in like Justin Jefferson 18.5, like an option for like this year's week 3 last year.
I know it was so disappointing just to take 18.5 and I just win my bet. And what do you have? 174 yards. And then by the next week, he was up to the low 50s, I think. And the rest is history. But that was fun being able to get Justin Jefferson below 20 receiving yards, if you could believe it.
Hey, I mean, I know you have like a little column in your spreadsheet where you do all the like distribution. So sports books let you bet like over 60, over 80, over 100, over 120 based on those same distributions. So you got to start dabbling in those like, those little more exotic receiving yard props.
Yeah, maybe for a different show. But
that was some degen shit. But it's true though. Like sometimes like Valdez-Scantling, like Marquise Brown, guys like that.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
You can't just take the median. You got to go like with the highest number they post. Just go with that.
High ceiling,
like plus
guys.
500. Yeah, exactly.
That's why Valdez-Scantling. If there's a prop for 0 catches, you take it. Or 100 plus yards.
Or you take both and you just as long as you bet the numbers right, you probably
exactly
over the long term. But where are you going for your second receiving prop?
I am going with Marquise Brown under 4.5 receptions here. Looks like he missed practice again today. That's kind of been the theme so far this season. He's been dealing with an ankle injury where he misses practice time, and then he's totally fine come Sunday. But this week, they have an easier matchup against the Lions. Maybe they don't lean on him as much. Maybe they lean on Sammy Watkins here. And like I said on our Tuesday show, I think Mark Andrews is due for an eruption game here. So maybe, they get Mark Andrews going. And this is a projection where he's one of those guys where he has a wide range of outcomes. It wouldn't surprise me if he clears his receiving yards prop. But when it comes to receptions, it's a little bit easier to find value. If you're projecting 4 receptions like I am, that extra half reception is so valuable in these markets that I would consider this probably a 60% chance of going under. So I love the under 4.5 receptions here for Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, and I actually, I have Lamar Jackson going over his, normal pass yard baseline against the Lions. I don't think it's a great defense at this point, but I still have Marquise Brown at like 3.7 catches because the thing with especially these, and you kind of alluded to it, these high yard per catch receivers, which Brown usually is the more yards they get, they don't necessarily need any more catches. Like it's like if Marquise Brown catches a 50-yard pass, that's just 50 extra yards of like offense the Ravens don't need to pick up. Yeah. And thus less plays they have to run before they get to the end zone or kick a short thing Justin Tucker field goal. So I think I'm with you. I think even if he goes a little over my projection, he's at 4. And you still win that by a half one. So unless it's a crazy game script where the Baltimore, maybe it's a trap game for them. I see him, having an efficient game, but not necessarily a high volume. So I like that one a lot. For my second receiver prop, I am going with, and this is going to kind of come out of nowhere, but it's why we look at the market and try to find, which guys match up or are off from our projections the most. And it's Gerald Everett here. I'm going over 21.5 receiving yards. He ran 69% of the routes per drop back in week 1, 76% in week 2. The Vikings are allowing 64.5 yards per game receiving to tight end. So Gerald Everett's getting, like most of the tight end usage, like probably 3/4 of it for Seattle. So, he would clear it based on the defense. But you look back to even when he was with the Rams last year, he cleared this number in 10 to 15 games. And he was playing a much lower snap count because he was behind Higbee for the Rams. So I know he's had some kind of quiet games. So it was something that's been talked about in the Seattle media. Their tight ends just got, 1 catch last week. So I think they need a little bit more high percentage passing game because remember, they had that big play to Lockett early, the big play to Freddie Swain late, but they couldn't pick up key first downs when they needed to late in the game against the Titans. And so they need more high percentage passing game. And I think that's, you kind of have to look at, what happened the week before. Did it work? Did it not work? And what possible adjustments could be made? And to me, Gerald Everett, without even adjusting anything, just based on his routes run putting it around 70%, the average from, the first couple of weeks being a little conservative, he still is about 3 catches, about 30 yards for me. So I think he should go well over this prop.
Yeah, I'm in line with you here. I wanted to take this one too, damn it. But week 1 kind of threw me for a loop because Will Disley outran Gerald Everett and routes run, and I was kind of worried about that. But week 2 dispelled that, where we saw Everett take a huge leap in routes run. 76% is pretty elite for a tight end, and his target rate this year has been 6.7%, which is pretty unusual for Wilson. We know he does like to lean on tight ends. So I think
go up.
last week, Freddie Swain was sort of the third target in this offense. I think going forward, it's going to be Everett. So love this play. It's kind of like Fournette, where he hasn't cleared this number yet this year, but I think this is a good projection to kind of sail over this. So I'm projecting him closer to 30 actually. So I'm way over this line.
Right. So and it's just, again, it's just straight up on routes. The average tight end per route run is going to see a target about 16, 17% of the time, you know, and by routes, I mean, including, you know, routes where no one's targeted, where a quarterback scrambles or whatever happens, which does happen with Wilson. But he's not going to be at 6.7 per, you know, targets per route.
No way. That is definitely going up.
So those are our props for this episode. To recap, Sean going with Justin Fields over 215.5 passing yards, Najee Harris under 69.5 rushing yards, Leonard Fournette under 21.5 receiving yards, Cooper Kupp over 77.5 receiving yards, and Marquise Brown under 4.5 receptions. I'm going with Kyler Murray over 280.5 passing yards, Austin Ekeler over 53.5 rushing yards, DeAndre Swift under 40.5 rushing yards, Justin Jefferson over 73.5 receiving yards, and Gerald Everett over 21.5 receiving yards. All right, so that's going to do it for our Week 3 Player Props podcast presented by Prize Picks. Be sure to follow Sean Kerner on Twitter at @_oddsmaker and me at Chris Raybon. You can also follow us at those same handles in the free award-winning Action Network app, where you can see all of our bets and track yours for free. And be sure to check out actionnetwork.com for our fantasy projections, rankings, content, and tools, and fantasylabs.com for our DFS content and models and tools and all that good stuff. All right, until next time, let's get this money.